one thing we learn from experience walking with God is that when He wants you to move, He starts making the place you are very uncomfortable. We've seen this in the first episode when we were talking about the unborn twins, discussing about the world outside. And it's still the same. So when I came first to Nigeria, I was put in a guest house for 1 week. That's like a SAS, where you just start putting your feet and exploring the place a bit. I had a lot of problems there, and one of the problems I found was I didn't know about insects. So I left a jam jar open, and by the time I came back, it was all eaten up. There was a queue of ants. The whole corridor was lined up with ants entering my room. So eventually I was put to share with 2 girls in that kind of house. We had a room each, but we shared the rest of the accommodation. But then gradually I found the place becoming very, very uncomfortable. The main reason being that my mates were having a glorious time. They had no studies to do. They were inviting guests every evening, putting music, dancing, singing, enjoying themselves, while I was trying to study because I was halfway through my PhD. And then in the morning I would get up so that I prepare my lessons to teach. And they were just sleeping till maybe 10 a.m. So it became very impossible, very, very uncomfortable. And then when they tried to invite me to eat with them, I could not stand having the servant stand up and watch me while I ate. And I told them I'm not used to that. I want to be able to cook by myself. And, the whole place became impossible. And then I applied to get a flat by myself. That was another fight. It was difficult because there were not many flats available. Eventually I was told, this is the flat you are going to get. And it didn't go with any warning or explanation. I had to find out and figure out by myself what it was looking like. It was up the hill, a 2nd floor flat. And when I entered there, I quickly found out that there was no water. The tap was there, but it was not running. So to get water, to get out, go down, and then go down the garden that was on a slope, and then get to the public tap and queue up with other people fetching water, and then climbing up to the 2nd floor again. And then somebody else came and said she was to share the flat with me. And that girl was a Nigerian. The others had been British. This one was a Nigerian, but actually she had reported herself to be single, but she was married and she was expecting a baby. And so she told me, there are 2 bedrooms. You have to take the small one because I'm with my husband, and so we need the big one. And then they made me feel that I was quite a stranger there. I was not really wanted. And when my fiancé came to visit me over the weekend, I explained to him, and he told me that I have to write a letter to the housing committee. And he drafted the letter for me, and I have to read it again. And then I sent it. And it took a time, but thankfully they agreed to my suggestions, moved the lady and husband to a ground floor that was more suitable for them. And then eventually I got that flat. And, I stayed there until we married. And then when we were married, we continued staying there as a couple. Then we got a son. And then after a while, that son became sick. He had a debilitating disease, and he was getting bigger, and I was finding it very difficult to carry him uh, downstairs to get some fresh air and exercise, and then go up again, into the block. And I applied to get a ground floor somewhere, and I was told I could get a bungalow, 2-bedroom bungalow, but it took a very long time. But because they could see the point that it was a safety and health issue, they agreed with me and gave me a bungalow. But at first, they didn't give me the keys. They just allocated the place to me and had no key, so I asked for the keys. Then they gave me the keys to the house, but not to the garage. And it took a time because they were saying that they had no key, and I could not understand why. Eventually, they gave me a key, and the whole place was full of stuff. The person that moved out had moved out in a hurry and left everything there. So it took us some time to move, for them to remove everything that was in the house and put it in the garage. And for quite a while we had no garage while we were having a car. And that was the first experience after, the second or the third, you would say, of discovering that every move was organized by God, was called for by God, but every move was a fight. Because you are told, yes, I can see you want to move, but then you are offered something that you have to fight for. Basics that you have to fight for. In that case, it was a key, the key to the house. And that went on. The next step in the move for us was to move from that 2-bedroom bungalow to a 4-bedroom plus study. At that time, I had become a professor, and I had 4 children. My first one had died, but I had 4 others, and then some 8 others that we were fostering. So the house was completely full of people, completely packed, chock-a-block. And I begged and begged and begged the people to give me a bigger house, and they wouldn't. At a point, we became so frustrated, the whole house, that we said, today we are going to live the way God wants us to live. We remember Jericho. Joshua had to fight a battle for Jericho, but it was a battle that he couldn't fight by himself, because Jericho was having very high walls, and there was no way he could go through these walls. So he was told by God exactly what to do. And if you read the story, you see that they went round for several days, quietly, one time round each day, until the last day, where they shouted. They went round 7 times and then shouted, and the walls came tumbling down. So we said, okay, we're going to do that. So we went round our own garden, because we had no house yet to move into. And then we started shouting, Jericho fallen, 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 Jericho fallen, to rise no more. And we were full of faith. And we got very sure, very certain that God was going to break through for us. Do you know it took 10 years? And for 10 years we continue asking God, give us that house. We know you are going to give us that house. But surely, like God said, my ways are not your ways. And his own timetable is quite way out of our own. And so we had to wait. We had to wait a long time. And I want to encourage you, God's timing may not be yours, but if you are very sure that he wants you to move, he will provide. He will provide a place, and meanwhile, he will make you graduate from patience to patience, from perseverance to perseverance, clinging onto His word and using the place you get to the best of your ability. And this was not preventing us from getting all the children we wanted and fostering all we needed to foster, because that was the mission that God had given us. So we said, well, whether the house is small or not, whether there is water or not, it doesn't matter. We are going to continue. Let not the difficulties, let not the fight prevent you from pushing to the agenda that God has given you. Bless you.